was sometime last year you had like a big run on all the, like you were on a big press tour.
Oh yeah.
And you were going off on all the.
Oh the guys.
Yeah, where are you at now with that? Like, do you feel
It seems like some of them have sort of rethunk it a bit, but like I don't know that I can really. Mostly Tim, and I feel like Andrew has kind of rethunk it. I don't expect Theo to rethink much, and I don't like, that's not a slag on him, and I think Joe knows where his bread is buttered, but I think that my problem was with their politics. I mean, I know all those guys, and I was clear about it, and and I still feel that way. But what's done is done, and now what do you really expect? I mean, Tim has been sort of surprising in that he is sort of like, we fucked up and this guy's, bad news and he's conning everybody. But
don't you think they all always knew? How could anyone not always have known that?
I really think that that a lot of people don't have a worldview. They react emotionally, and also they're looking to do what's best for them. But I really don't think, in order to really get from, I want to say trans, I want to say reach, and that's what I'm going to vote for. I'm going to vote for anti-wokeness so I can have the freedom to do that and to get from there to realize they're going to use that as an umbrella for all the policy necessary to dismantle liberal democracy on all levels under that anti-woke umbrella. For them to know that was going to happen would take a worldview, and it would take an engagement with what these guys wanted to do politically in the big picture. And I don't know that they did that.
Yeah, they cherry picked what was convenient for their own personal.
They're fundamentally
gain.
not political people.
Yeah,
right.
They're not following the narrative, and they're not necessarily, they'll react to stuff, but I mean, there is something that's been going on for decades, between the right and left, or the right. There's a lot of things that I had to get hip to, like when I was at Air America, to sort of follow the narrative. And then once you get conspiracies and alternative sources of things where everything becomes dubious to you, like, well, that's not true. Where'd you get your information? Like, if you can say that to anything and there's no barometer for what truth is or what it isn't, and then you're in some other fucking you're in you're living in a conspiracy theory.
It's frustrating because I look at this, I'm like, what's worse, that these people were so evil and selfish, or that they were actually just that stupid? And I don't really know which one it is.
I think that once you get into the 1%, that your life is that. So like, once you sort of like look at all these guys, jockeying for position in the 1%, hundreds of millions of dollars, you're talking a lot of money. So whatever, goes on at the Kevin Hart roast, or whatever racist thing they say, they're still flying far above the world and the average person and the average person's problems and concerns. They don't have any of them.
But they don't
None.
have a recollection of the grind or the early years?
Because it was all, I don't know what their life is, or it's all about success, but their day-to-day challenges are, they might as well be on Mars.
Yeah.
So like, and it really is an insulated world that is about success and about numbers. And then also like someone like Tony, he likes the role of being the villain.
Yeah.
And, what does that mean? And I think he likes Trump for the same reason. But, who's running this country and what's really happening and how is it all coming unhinged? And the fact that, that we don't even have enough infrastructure to stop an outbreak of diarrhea virus. When does it impact guys who are so rich that they don't have to live on the planet anymore? I don't know, but it's like, look, I'm not broke and I'm not, working a manual labor job, but I am empathetic to the struggle of people that are marginalized or minorities or in a certain type of trouble. And I do think that you lose a lot of what makes America amazing if you're all about white culture.
Yeah, I personally feel so confused where I sit now, because I'm like, I started with a lot of those guys, and it's like we were just like broke people that like wanted to be artists. The antithesis of that. Yeah. Well, yeah. But it is art. It is art.
I get what you're saying, but you know, there are people that, you know, get into it for the big prizes, right? So like there is like I'm not a person that generally thought about money, and I still don't. Like I had something to say. I still kind of feel that way. I'm happy that it worked out and I made some money. There was nothing I put in place to make that happen. There was no forethought to it. You know, I lucked out. I was there at the beginning of something that coalesced around me, and you know, it worked out for me. But I didn't have a plan to make money, and I still don't. I'm happy I did because it makes my life easier. And now that I have it, you know, I do feel, you know, like a success in that way. But like there comes a point where it's like, how much money do you fucking guys need?
I think my point is just like people who are creative and who are people that get on stage to express how they feel, it doesn't make sense to me that they're also like Republican. Like that's just my brain doesn't
I think
compute.
I don't mean to jump to your.
No.
I don't think that there is a lot of creativity necessarily to having a point of view about a thing, right? These aren't poets. You're not talking about 20 Brent Weinbachs.
Marc Maron went off on the Rogan-sphere comedians. He was on Trash Tuesday with Esther and Bobby Lee's ex, Khalyla Coon. And Marc Maron is still back at it. Giving the Rogan-sphere guys a trashing. He brought up Tim, Andrew, Theo, Tony, all of them. Now, Esther asked a question, and she brought up last year when Marc Maron went on his press run because he was ending his podcast. He gave all the Rogan-sphere guys a trashing. And Bill Burr trashing, too. And he pissed him off. And then Rogan went after Marc Maron and gave the okay because if you remember, Andrew Schulz and Akash Singh then went off on Marc Maron. I wonder if Akash is regretting that now that he's now friends with Andrew and not at a Rogan-sphere, but that was a concerted effort back. Then we heard from Rogan a little while later that Marc Maron had called Rogan and apologized. And we never heard anything from Marc saying that didn't happen. But then Marc, slowly but surely, has gone back to trashing the Rogan-sphere. Although not that bad, he's just bringing up his criticisms of the Rogan-sphere comedians. The thing I'm going to agree with him the most, Esther kept trying to get off, the artistry and how comedians are artists, and no, they're not. I hate it when all the comedians do that. They start talking about the artistry of comedy, and it's like, dude, you got a 20-minute bit about farts. Shut up. Calm down there, Rembrandt. Easy there, Beethoven. But I just love the fact that Maron is never going to give it up. And he trashed him again on other podcasts when he was on stage. That's just like his thing, the eternal war, Marc Maron versus the Rogan-sphere comedians. The only problem is with like a guy like Maron, and this was one of Rogan's criticisms of Marc Maron. A lot of people don't like Marc Maron in the comedy world. And even people who you would think would be on like Marc Maron's side because they align with him politically, right? Like Jon Stewart hates Marc Maron and will side with Rogan over Marc Maron, even though politically him and Marc Maron pretty much agree because they just think all of this comes from Marc Maron being jealous of them. They don't, even though Marc Maron's criticism may be legit, they feel the place where it's coming from isn't legit, and Marc is just saying all this because Marc is jealous of them. And to be fair, Marc Maron in the past did show obvious signs of jealousy. I brought up Jon Stewart. I'll explain to you why Jon Stewart hates Marc Maron. Because back in the day, this is way back in the day, early 90s, Jon Stewart got a job on like MTV, like a VJ or something, right? And Marc Maron gave him so much shit, called him a sellout and all that stuff. And then Jon Stewart left that job. And then Marc Maron took the same job Jon Stewart had. So Jon Stewart was like, oh, you were just jealous of me that I had that job. So that beef goes back. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments.